Welcome, dear soul, and welcome back to Whispers of the Night. Tonight, I invite you to slow down, to breathe a little softer, and to step into a quiet world where warmth, comfort, and gentle dreams are waiting for you. Before we begin, take a moment to settle into your space. Let your shoulders fall, let your jaw loosen, and let the day begin to fade behind you. If you enjoy these nightly journeys, you're always welcome to subscribe, so you never miss a moment of peace, a moment created just for you, a moment where the world grows softer. Tonight's story is The Bracelet of Timeless Connections, a tale of gentle magic, old memories, and the quiet strength that lives within you. So close your eyes, let the night wrap around you, and let this story guide you toward rest and toward the calm your heart has been waiting for. Before we drift into dreams, let's prepare your mind and body for rest. Take a slow breath in as you're filling your chest with warm moonlight, and exhale, gently letting every corner of your body soften. Feel the weight in your arms, the gentle heaviness in your legs, the quiet loosening behind your eyes. You are safe here. Nothing asks for your attention. Nothing pulls at your thoughts. It is only you, the night, and this gentle moment that belongs completely to you. Let your breath become smooth and steady. Imagine each inhale gathering the softness of the night around you, and each exhale releasing the noise of the day, letting it fall away like dust from your shoulders. If your mind wanders, that's all right. Thoughts drift like clouds, and you can let them pass without holding on. Simply return to the feeling of calm settling through your body. Feel your bed supporting you, the warmth of your blanket, the quiet around you growing deeper and softer. Now imagine a faint glow resting near your heart, small, warm, and steady. With every breath, it expands just a little, spreading ease through your chest. This gentle warmth is your inner calm, the part of you that has always known how to rest, how to be still, how to let go. Let it fill you, shelter you, cradle you. Let the glow quiet your thoughts, as though someone has dimmed the lights inside your mind. You are drifting deeper, slower, softer. The night is holding you just as you are. You do not need to do anything. Just breathe and allow rest to flow. You like a slow, peaceful tide. And with that soft, steady warmth inside you, you are ready to step into tonight's story. The Bracelet of Timeless Connections. The trinket shop on the Lantern Street. The evening air was soft and quiet, carrying a faint chill that made the glow of lanterns along the cobbled street feel warmer than it had any right to. Sabrina walked slowly, her footsteps muffled by the worn stones beneath her boots. The street was narrow, lined with quaint little shops, most of them closed for the night. Their windows dark, except for the occasional flicker of candlelight. The scent of aged wood and faint spices lingered in the air, subtle reminders of the small market that had once been bustling during the daytime. She drew her soft cloak tighter around her shoulders, a gentle shiver running down her spine as she glanced at the warm golden light spilling from a tiny shop tucked between two larger buildings. It was a curious little place, almost as if it had been waiting for someone to notice it. The windows were fogged slightly with age, and through the glass, Sabrina could just make out shelves lined with small trinkets, jars, and delicate objects that seemed to shimmer faintly, even in the muted glow of the lanterns outside. Something about it called to her. She couldn't explain why, but she felt drawn forward, her feet carrying her toward the door before her mind could form any rational objection. The door was small, wooden, and carved with delicate patterns that had faded with time. When she pushed it open, a tiny bell chimed softly above her head, announcing her entrance. Inside, the air smelled of old parchment, polished wood, and something faintly floral, like dried lavender mixed with a hint of honey. The light was warm, golden, and soft, casting gentle shadows that danced across the room. Every surface seemed to hold a secret, from shelves lined with small crystal bottles to glass jars filled with powders and tiny charms. Behind a counter at the back of the shop stood the elder shopkeeper. His long white beard almost reached his chest, and his round spectacles caught the light in a way that made his eyes twinkle softly. He wore layered robes in muted browns and deep greens, each fold of fabric carefully arranged as if he had stepped out of a painting rather than the bustling world outside. His hands, though aged and lined, moved with surprising grace as he carefully adjusted a small display of bracelets, each delicate and gleaming under the soft lamplight. Sabrina paused for a moment at the threshold, taking in the quiet charm of the shop. It felt as though she had stepped out of her world and into a different one altogether, one where time slowed and every detail mattered. She noticed the tiny bell still dangling above the door, the faint creak of the wooden floor beneath her boots, and the almost imperceptible hum of energy that seemed to linger around certain objects on the shelves. She took a step forward, her hand brushing against a polished wooden shelf as she walked toward the counter. "Good evening," the elder shopkeeper said, in a voice that was soft, warm, and oddly familiar, as if he had been expecting her all along. There was no impatience or curiosity in his tone, only a gentle acknowledgement of her presence. "I wondered when you might arrive." Sabrina blinked, taken slightly aback. I'm not sure what brought me here," she admitted. I saw the light, and it felt inviting, somehow." The shopkeeper nodded slowly, as though her words made perfect sense. "Sometimes the right place finds us rather than the other way around," he said, his eyes twinkling behind the thin lenses of his spectacles. "And sometimes the right objects find the right hands." He gestured gently to the display. In front of him, Sabrina followed his gesture, her eyes landing on a small silver bracelet nestled in a velvet-lined box. It was simple, delicate, and yet somehow captivating. The silver caught the light in a way that seemed almost unnatural, shimmering softly as if it had its own inner glow. There were tiny engravings along its surface, intricate patterns that looked like vines or threads weaving into one another, creating shapes that felt familiar yet unplaceable. She reached out tentatively, her fingers brushing against the smooth metal. and the moment she touched it, a subtle warmth spread through her hand, delicate and comforting, like the first sun of spring on chilled skin. "That one," the elder shopkeeper said, leaning slightly on the counter, his voice a mere whisper now, yet carrying a weight that made her pause. "It has waited a long time for the right hands. It is said to hold timeless connections, not just to the world, but to hearts, memories, and dreams." Sabrina's breath caught slightly at his words. "Timeless connections," she repeated, unsure if she meant it aloud or simply in her mind. He nodded. "It does not alter the course of events. It does not rewrite what has been, but it allows the wearer to feel the threads that link souls across time, to touch moments of peace and understanding that might otherwise remain hidden. Many have worn it, and many more will, but only the one it calls can truly understand its quiet magic." Sabrina felt her heart beat a little faster. It was strange, the certainty that welled inside her despite the oddity of his words. Somehow, she knew that this bracelet was meant for her, that it had found her not by chance, but by quiet design. She held the small piece in her hand, turning it over, watching the delicate engravings glint in the golden lamplight. "How much is it?" she asked softly, almost afraid to break the fragile, magical atmosphere that hung between them. The elder shopkeeper smiled, a small, knowing smile. "The cost is not always counted in coins," he said, his eyes glimmering. "But if you are ready, it is yours." Sabrina hesitated for a heartbeat, then nodded, feeling a wave of calm wash over her. She handed him a few coins she had brought with her, though the gesture felt almost secondary. The bracelet was placed gently around her wrist, the clasp clicking softly into place. From the moment it settled there, she felt as though a quiet hum of energy had begun to move through her, subtle yet undeniable, like the soft echo of a lullaby she could not remember hearing, but somehow knew by heart. For a moment, she simply held her hand in the lamplight, watching the silver shimmer softly, and the world outside seemed to recede, leaving only the warm glow of the shop and the presence of the elder shopkeeper. He watched her silently, his gaze calm and reassuring, giving her the space to feel the magic of the moment without intrusion. "Take care," he said finally, his voice gentle, almost like a breeze that brushes softly against the skin. "Treat it with thoughtfulness, with patience, and it will speak to you when you are ready. It is patient. You need not rush." Sabrina nodded, feeling a quiet reverence settle in her chest. She carefully adjusted her cloak and stepped back toward the door, the weight of the bracelet on her wrist both light and profound. The bell above the door chimed softly as she opened it, stepping out into the lantern-lit street once more. The evening had deepened into a soft twilight, the faint glow of stars beginning to shimmer above, delicate and shy, as she walked home. The bracelet on her wrist seemed to pulse gently with a warmth she could not explain. Every step felt lighter than before, yet somehow more significant, as if the world itself had shifted just enough to remind her of quiet possibilities hidden within ordinary moments. The street seemed more alive, though still hushed, and the distant chiming of other lanterns gave her the sense that she was walking through a world that existed partly in reality and partly in a gentle, suspended dream. She passed shuttered shops and quiet homes, each window reflecting the soft light. In its own way, the night air carried a mixture of scents, the faint tempts of baked bread from a nearby bakery, the sweetness of night-blooming flowers from a hidden garden. The earthy aroma of the cobblestones warmed by the last rays of the setting sun. Each detail seemed sharper, more vivid than usual, and yet simultaneously softened by a quiet haze of calm, as though the bracelet had opened her senses in the gentlest way. Sabrina's mind wandered as she walked, thinking about the elder shopkeeper's words, about the notion of timeless connections and the unseen threads that bind moments, people, and memories together. She had always been a thoughtful person, prone to notice the small things, the subtle gestures, the quiet currents running beneath everyday life. But tonight, it was different. There was a resonance, a faint echo that seemed to follow her steps, light and comforting, like a gentle heartbeat beneath her own. By the time she reached her small room, tucked away in the upper floor of a quiet building at the end of a narrow lane, she was both exhilarated and strangely at peace. She closed the door behind her, letting the quiet settle around her like a soft blanket. The lamp on her bedside table glowed warmly, casting long, gentle shadows across the floor, and the faint hum of the bracelet seemed to echo in the silence. Sabrina sat on the edge of her bed for a moment, turning her wrist over and over, examining the delicate silver once more. She felt the warmth spread slowly through her, subtle, insistent, like a quiet invitation to something she could not yet name. She let out a slow breath, leaning back against the pillows, and allowed herself to close her eyes, feeling the world soften around her. The sounds of the night drifted in through her slightly open window, the distant murmur of water, the soft rustle of leaves, the occasional whisper of a breeze brushing against the rooftops. For the first time in a long while, she felt that same sense of quiet wonder that had drawn her to the little trinket shop in the first place. It was a feeling she could not define, yet it was profound in its simplicity, the knowledge that she had stepped into a small moment that might, in time, lead to something extraordinary, something quietly magical. And for now, that knowledge was enough. The bracelet rested lightly against her wrist, cool to the touch, but vibrating faintly with energy, as if it were alive, patient, and waiting. Sabrina let her fingers brush it once more, feeling the subtle hum resonate through her veins, and then she laid her hand on her lap, letting sleep begin to wash over her. Outside, the lanterns continued to glow, the street quiet and still, and the little trinket shop waited patiently, knowing that its magic had found the right hands at last. And as she drifted, the night air seemed to whisper softly, carrying with it the faint promise of connections yet to come, of threads that would gently weave themselves through her dreams, and of a quiet, timeless magic that had only just begun to stir. The bracelet awakens. The room was quiet, softer than usual, as Sabrina lay beneath the folds of her warm blanket. The night outside was calm, the moon spilling silver light across the window pane and painting soft patterns on the wooden floor. Her fingers brushed against the cool silver of the bracelet that rested lightly on her wrist, and for a moment she paused, simply feeling its weight and the faint, subtle warmth that had begun to hum beneath the metal. She let out a slow breath, letting the day's small excitements fade, and allowed her eyelids to grow heavy. The soft hush of the room seemed to wrap around her like a comforting blanket, carrying with it the faint aroma of lavender from the small sachet she had tucked beneath her pillow. Slowly, her mind began to drift, the edges of consciousness softening, and a sense of quiet anticipation settled in her chest. Then, as the line between waking and sleeping blurred, a gentle glow began to shimmer from the bracelet. It was soft, almost like the light of a single candle, yet it pulsed with an inner rhythm, warm and inviting. Sabrina stirred slightly, her eyes fluttering open in the dim light, but the glow did not startle her. Instead, it felt familiar, soothing, as if the bracelet were quietly calling her into a place she had always known but never seen. A voice, calm and warm, reached her ears, not from any specific direction but surrounding her entirely, like a gentle embrace. "Sabrina," it whispered, low and melodic, "come. Step beyond the edge of your world. Do not fear." Her heart beat a little faster, but not with fear. There was a strange, tender trust in the voice, a quiet certainty that allowed her to let go of hesitation. Slowly, she sat up, the soft sheets falling away from her shoulders, and gazed at the bracelet glowing gently against her skin. The light seemed to pulse in harmony with her heartbeat, subtle yet insistent, beckoning her toward something unseen. And then, as if drawn by an invisible current, her surroundings began to shift. The walls of her room softened, the ceiling stretched and blurred into a gentle haze, and the familiar edges of her bed faded as though the night itself had dissolved into a luminous mist. Her feet no longer touched the floor, and a soft, floating sensation carried her upward, gently, without effort, as the whispering voice continued, "Step forward. It is ready." Before her eyes, the room transformed entirely. She was no longer in her small chamber, but standing in a garden that floated in a vast, endless expanse of twilight. The ground beneath her feet was invisible, replaced by a shimmering platform of light that seemed to hum softly with life. Petals drifted through the air, luminous and delicate, each shaped like a tiny star, glimmering with faint silver and gold hues. They twirled and danced around her, moving with the rhythm of a soft breeze she could not feel, but somehow knew. The garden was unlike anything she had ever imagined. Trees stretched into the mist, their branches flowing like silk in slow motion. Flowers of soft, impossible colors leaned gently toward her, exuding scents that were calming, sweet, and entirely unfamiliar, yet soothing in a way that felt like a memory she had never known but somehow understood. Light sparkled across everything in gentle waves, creating a world that was entirely suspended between reality and dream. Sabrina stepped forward tentatively, her bare feet brushing against the invisible surface beneath her. The sensation was soft, almost like walking on a layer of clouds or thick velvet, yet solid enough to give her balance. Each step made the star-like petals swirl around her, and with each swirl, she felt the faint echo of warmth and familiarity. Like a tender reassurance from the bracelet itself, the whispering voice spoke again, calm and close, as though the air itself carried it. "Do not be afraid. This is a place of quiet reflection, a space where time bends softly and connections are felt. You are safe here." She inhaled slowly, the air around her fragrant and cool, and nodded. Despite the strangeness of the place, Despite the surreal softness of the floating garden, there was no fear, only a quiet, settling peace. She could feel the bracelet's warmth spreading further now, not just around her wrist, but deep into her arms, her chest, her very pulse. It was as though it were guiding her, drawing her gently into this new realm. Everywhere she looked, the garden seemed alive in subtle ways. Petals drifted in slow spirals, tiny motes of light flickered across the air, and delicate paths of glowing mist wound around invisible forms of plants, leading her forward. When she moved, the garden seemed to respond. Paths opened, petals swirled more freely, and the light shimmered brighter, reflecting her presence, as though the space itself recognized her arrival. A feeling of familiarity stirred deep within her, not from the garden itself, but from the quiet way her senses seemed to adjust. The air smelled like early morning dew in a garden she had once visited long ago, in a memory too faint to fully grasp. The faint sound of running water reached her ears, distant and soft, like the slow trickle of a hidden stream. And beneath all of it, the whispering voice continued, patient, calm, unwavering, guiding her without ever rushing her, without ever demanding anything. Sabrina's eyes widened as she looked around, taking in the depth of the garden. Stars sparkled faintly in the distance, not in the sky, but hovering among the trees and flowers, mingling with the petals that fell gently around her. It was as if the entire space existed in a delicate balance between reality and dream, a place built not of walls or earth, but of moments, feelings, and quiet energy that seemed to hum in harmony with the bracelet on her wrist. She lifted her hands slowly, the bracelet catching the floating light and scattering it in soft ripples across the unseen ground. Every ripple made the petals swirl, and in that movement, Sabrina felt something she could not yet name, a deep, silent connection, like a thread linking her to something timeless, ancient, and quietly alive. The voice whispered again, "Feel it, let it guide you. You are not alone." A soft breeze, warm and comforting, seemed to pass through the garden, though no leaves stirred visibly. It wrapped around her, brushing against her hair, carrying the scent of the petals and the faint sweetness of something indefinably gentle. Sabrina closed her eyes and let the moment wash over her. She felt her heart beat slow, her muscles relax, and a sense of clarity settle in her chest. The bracelet pulsed gently in time with her own pulse, and she realized that it was not merely an object, but a guide, a companion, a quiet presence meant to lead her through this space. When she opened her eyes again, the garden seemed even more vivid. Small bridges of light arched over misty gaps, tiny streams of glowing water wound lazily between unseen roots, and the petals continued to drift in delicate spirals. The space felt endless, yet intimate, vast, yet comforting. Every step she took brought a subtle shift in the light, a soft response from the world around her, as if it were welcoming her fully into its quiet magic. For a long moment, Sabrina simply wandered, letting her fingers brush against the drifting petals, listening to the whispering voice, feeling the warmth of the bracelet, and absorbing the serene energy of the floating garden. It was a place of calm, of gentle discovery, of soft wonder and introduction to a world that existed just beyond the edge of ordinary perception. And in that place, as she moved quietly among the glowing petals and soft light, Sabrina felt the first stirrings of something extraordinary. The awareness that the bracelet had awakened not just magic, but a deep, timeless connection waiting to guide her patiently, softly, across the moments yet to come. For the first time in a long while, she felt that same sense of quiet wonder that had drawn her to the little trinket shop in the first place. It was a feeling she could not define, yet it was profound in its simplicity, the knowledge that she had stepped into a small moment that might, in time, lead to something extraordinary, something quietly magical. And for now, that knowledge was enough. The bracelet rested lightly against her wrist, cool to the touch, but vibrating faintly with energy, as if it were alive, patient, and waiting. Sabrina let her fingers brush it once more, feeling the subtle hum resonate through her veins, and then she laid her hand on her lap, letting sleep begin to wash over her. Outside, the lanterns continued to glow, the street quiet and still, and the little trinket shop waited patiently, knowing that its magic had found the right hands at last. And as she drifted, the night air seemed to whisper softly, carrying with it the faint promise of connections yet to come, of threads that would gently weave themselves through her dreams, and of a quiet, timeless magic that had only just begun to stir. The past wearer appears. It was not bound to the world of soil and stone, nor to the strict lines of reality. It floated gently in an endless twilight sky, suspended on drifting layers of soft blue mist. Flowers shaped like falling stars bloomed without stems, hovering in the air as though held by some invisible breath of the universe. Their petals glowed faintly pink, silver, and pale gold, casting soft reflections along Sabrina's arms and on to the silver bracelet resting on her wrist. She took a slow breath and stepped forward, feeling tiny ripples spread beneath her feet, even though she stood on nothing but luminous pathways of light. Each step chimed like a distant bell, delicate and quiet, as if welcoming her deeper into the dream. Sabrina turned her wrist slightly, holding the bracelet up to see if it reacted, and indeed, the small silver bead at its center pulsed with a calm, steady glow. It felt warm against her skin, like a quiet heartbeat that didn't belong solely to her. Something else lived within it, an echo, a memory, or perhaps a soul. The whispering breeze she had followed earlier brushed past her again. It played gently with her hair, as though guiding her toward the far end of the floating garden. She hesitated at the sight of a shimmering archway formed from curving lines of starlight. It wasn't a doorway made of brick or wood, but an opening created purely from soft brightness, like moonlight woven into shape. The moment she stepped through, the air shifted. A soft humming filled the space, warm and soothing, like someone humming a lullaby they had known since childhood. Sabrina's heartbeat slowed as she followed the sound deeper into the glowing expanse. The garden seemed to breathe around her. Flowers pulsed gently, as though exhaling light. She could feel the dream world watching her with the kind of attention that felt comforting rather than frightening. And then she felt it, a presence, not the voice that had guided her, not the breeze that pushed softly at her back, but something still and serene, like a calm lake waiting to reflect whatever approached. Sabrina stopped walking. There, standing beneath a canopy of softly falling petals, was a woman. The woman did not simply appear. She seemed to emerge from the dream itself, her form gathering from drifting silver particles that sparkled like floating dust. She stood with her hands loosely clasped in front of her, head slightly tilted, as if she had been expecting Sabrina. For a very, very long time, she was beautiful, not in a loud, impossible way, but in a gentle, timeless sort of quiet beauty. Her hair fell long and loose around her shoulders, darker at the roots and fading into a soft ash brown at the ends. It moved like slow water, drifting even without wind. Her clothing looked hand-woven from a time centuries before Sabrina. Modern world-a long dress with flowing sleeves, decorated with faint patterns of vines, and around her wrist, glowing softly, was the same bracelet, the past wearer. Sabrina could somehow feel it even before the woman spoke. The woman smiled. It wasn't a wide smile, nor one meant to impress. It was small, delicate, and sincere, the kind of smile someone shows when seeing a familiar friend after a long separation. "You've come," the woman said, her voice as soft as distant bells, warm as early sunlight. Sabrina swallowed, her throat tight not from fear but from awe. "Are you the one who wore this before me?" The woman nodded gently, the movement as fluid as the drifting petals around them. "Yes, I am one who once wore the bracelet, many years ago, long before your time. I walked this same dream garden, heard the same voice, and felt the same quiet settle into my heart. And now, the bracelet has chosen you." Sabrina lowered her gaze slightly and looked at her own wrist. The bracelet glowed brighter now that she stood before the past wearer. The warmth intensified, surrounding her fingers and creeping up her arm like a soft, comforting cloak. "I don't understand," Sabrina whispered. "Why me? I'm not special. I'm not even sure I'm strong. I found it." The woman stepped closer, her bare feet making soft ripples through the light beneath her. She stopped only an arm's length away and reached out, not touching Sabrina, but lifting her hand close as though feeling the air around her. "You didn't just find it," the woman said softly. "It called to you. Timeless things, gentle things, choose their keepers carefully." Her eyes glimmered, reflecting the floating lights around them. "This bracelet does not seek power or courage. It seeks hearts that need reminding of the peace they already carry." Sabrina blinked, reminding. The past wearer nodded. "Yes, you see, the bracelet is not here to change your fate or rewrite the threads of time. It is not a tool for altering what has been lived. It exists for something softer, something quieter." She lifted her wrist, the bracelet glowing faintly. "It connects gentle souls across time, not to interfere, but to comfort, not to push, but to guide." Her voice softened even further. "It reminds each wearer of who they are at their core once. The noise of the world has faded." Sabrina's chest warmed at those words. Something inside her, something she had kept pressed down beneath her routines and worries, loosened slightly. "But why dreams?" Sabrina asked, her voice trembling with curiosity. "Why this floating garden? Why meet you here?" The woman's expression grew thoughtful, serene. "Because the mind rests here, the heart opens here. In dreams, you are not busy trying to be anything. You simply are. She gestured around them. This realm allows truth to come softly, without pressure, without weight. Sabrina looked around, again the gentle flowers, the drifting pathways, the constant soft glow that felt like a warm embrace. Yes, this place felt safe in a way she hadn't felt in a long time. I lived long ago, the past wearer continued, in a world lit only by candles and the rustle of parchment. In my time, I carried worries to uncertainty, fears I couldn't speak aloud. She smiled faintly. The bracelet found me when I felt most lost. It brought me to this garden, and here I remembered the quiet inside me that I thought I had lost. She looked directly into Sabrina's eyes, and now it is your time. Your heart has been heavy, hasn't it? Sabrina's breath caught. She hadn't said anything about her emotions, not in this dream, not to anyone lately, but something inside her cracked open at the gentle accuracy of the woman's words. How did you know? Sabrina whispered. The past wearer smiled with patient understanding, because the bracelet only glows for those who carry quiet burdens. It seeks those who care deeply, who move gently in a loud world, those who forget, sometimes, to care for themselves. Sabrina felt a sting at the corner of her eyes. She blinked rapidly. I guess that's true. I try to be calm. I try to handle things. I try to be patient, but she swallowed. It gets heavy. The woman reached out and finally rested her fingertips lightly on Sabrina's wrist, where the bracelet gleamed. The touch sent a warmth spreading through Sabrina's arm, soft and soothing. You are not alone, the past wearer said. Not in your time, not in your dreams. This bracelet carries traces of every gentle soul who has worn it before you. She lifted Sabrina's wrist slightly. And now you are part of that lineage. You are connected to hearts who once stood where you stand. Sabrina exhaled shakily, the tension easing from her shoulders. So will I keep seeing you? Will the bracelet keep bringing me here? If your heart needs it, the woman whispered. The bracelet responds to calmness, longing, confusion, hope, every quiet emotion you hold. It brings you here when you need rest. It brings me or others like me when you need guidance. Sabrina looked down at her bracelet again. The idea of others, other past wearers, other souls across time felt strange and comforting at once. Did it help you? Sabrina asked. When you were the wearer, the woman nodded slowly, more than I can ever express. This bracelet didn't fix my world. It didn't erase my problems. She paused, but it showed me the strength in stillness. It taught me how to find calm within myself. And in that calm, I found clarity to face the world again. Sabrina let the words settle into her like soft rain. She didn't say anything for a long moment. She didn't need to. The past wearer watched her gently before speaking again. You are stronger than you believe. The world may tire you, frighten you, confuse you, but your heart is not fragile. It simply needs space to breathe. Sabrina nodded slowly. I want to learn, she whispered. I want to understand this place and myself. The woman's eyes warmed. And you will. Every dream will show you something new. Every glow of the bracelet carries meaning. The petals around them began to shift, drifting upward now instead of falling. The light brightened subtly, and Sabrina recognized the sensation like the dream was preparing to dissolve. She felt her breath catch. Wait, are you leaving? For now, the woman said softly. But not forever. When the bracelet glows again, Follow it. I will be near." Sabrina felt the world begin to fade, the floating pathways blurring into soft ribbons of light. The garden seemed to rise above her, lifting away into the sky. The past wearer gave one last gentle smile. "Rest your heart, Sabrina. Tomorrow will feel a little lighter." And then everything dissolved into a swirl of warm white light, leaving Sabrina drifting in a soft, peaceful silence. When she finally opened her eyes in her own room, the glow of the bracelet lingered faintly against her skin, warm, calm, and alive. Doors of memory and possibility. The world around Sabrina shimmered gently as the remnants of the floating garden dissolved into soft silver mist. She felt weightless, yet grounded, as though her body had been made of quiet moonlight. The bracelet on her wrist pulsed with a slow, rhythmic glow, steady, warm, inviting. The last whisper of the past wearer echoed faintly in her mind, like a distant lullaby that lingered even after the singer was gone. When the mist cleared, Sabrina found herself standing in a narrow corridor of pure light. It stretched endlessly, in both directions, though it didn't feel frightening. Instead, it felt like a hallway carved from gentle memories and soft dreams. The air was warm, like stepping into sunlight after rain, and a faint hum filled the space, the same calming, familiar whispering voice she had heard since the very first night the bracelet awoke. "Do not be afraid," the voice murmured, as tender as a breeze brushing past her cheek. "You are exactly where you need to be." Sabrina exhaled slowly. The voice didn't feel strange or intrusive. It felt comforting, like someone placing a soft blanket around her shoulders. She turned her head and finally noticed the doors. Both sides of the glowing corridor were lined with tall, elegant doors, each one different from the next. Some were decorated with swirling patterns of gold. Others were simple, made of smooth wood. Some shimmered with ripples of light like water. A few glowed softly from within, as if warm memories lived on the other side. Sabrina stepped closer to one of the nearest doors. It was pale blue with delicate carvings that reminded her of waves. When she lifted her hand toward the handle, the carvings brightened slightly, pulsing like a heartbeat. "What's behind these?" she whispered. A warm glow drifted down the corridor, wrapping gently around her like an unseen guide. "Each door holds a memory, a possibility, or a quiet truth," the whispering voice said. "This is the realm where hearts speak gently. It is a place where your past, your hopes, and your resting moments gather." Sabrina looked at the doors again. There were dozens of them, maybe hundreds. Each one felt uniquely alive, as if listening to her thoughts. "Do I have to choose one?" she asked softly. "You do not have to," the voice replied, warm and calm. "But one of these doors is calling you. You will feel it. You will know." Sabrina walked slowly down the glowing corridor. Her steps were soundless, as if her feet barely touched the ground. At first, she tried to understand what each door held by staring at it, but no image came. They didn't reveal themselves that easily. Instead, each door gave off a faint emotion, like the gentle echo of something long forgotten. One door felt like early morning sunlight through a window. Another felt like soft laughter on a quiet evening. A third felt like holding warm hands on a cold day. A fourth felt like the silence that follows a deep breath. Sabrina placed her hand lightly on different doors as she walked, trying to sense which one pulled at her heart. Each touch sent a wave of subtle warmth into her fingers, but none lingered. She paused halfway down the hall. "What if I choose the wrong one?" she murmured. "You cannot choose wrong," the voice whispered. "Every door holds something meant to help you. Some offer peace, some offer understanding, some simply let you breathe." There was a soft pause. "But one door one is meant for tonight." Sabrina swallowed gently and continued walking. The corridor seemed endless, yet she didn't feel tired. The air itself felt restful, as though it carried a quiet strength. As she passed more doors, she noticed tiny lights drifting around her, golden flecks that floated like dust caught in sunbeams. They brushed against her skin and gave off tiny sparks of warmth, like affectionate little touches from the dream itself. She took another step, and then she stopped. Before stood a few feet ahead, glowing more softly than the others. It wasn't ornate or carved with symbols. It was simple, made of smooth, warm wood, with a gentle amber glow pulsing beneath its surface. Something about it made her chest tighten softly. The glow around the door flickered faintly when she looked at it, almost as though it recognized her. "Yes," the whispering voice murmured, warm and pleased. "This is the one that calls to you." Sabrina moved closer, her heart beating a little faster with each step. She lifted her hand and let her fingertips brush the smooth wood. A ripple of warmth traveled from the door into her skin, spreading up her arm and settling gently in her chest. The bracelet reacted instantly. It glowed brighter, wrapping her wrist in a halo of soft silver. "What is behind it?" Sabrina whispered, the question trembling quietly from her lips. "Something you have forgotten to remember," the voice replied. "Not a pain, not a fear, something kind." Sabrina took a slow breath and curled her fingers around the handle. The moment she turned it, a wave of soft golden light poured from the cracks, bathing the corridor in gentle radiance. The door opened without a sound, and warm air touched her face, carrying the faint scent of something she hadn't smelled in years: vanilla and warm paper, like old books and childhood. Evenings, she stepped inside. The room on the other side wasn't a fantastical world like the floating garden. It wasn't dazzling or strange. Instead, it felt achingly familiar. She stood inside a small, quiet room lit by a single warm lamp. The walls were lined with shelves of books. A soft blanket lay draped over a cushioned chair near the window. Outside the window, gentle rain fell in slow, quiet drops, tapping lightly against the glass. The sound was rhythmic, soothing. The air felt warm, as though it had been waiting for her. Sabrina realized slowly that she knew this place. It was a memory, her memory. This was her childhood, reading nook, her favorite corner of the world, where she used to curl up after school, to escape into stories. She hadn't thought of this place in years, not since the room had been repainted and the furniture changed. Sabrina walked slowly toward the window. Her younger self sat in the cushioned chairs, smaller, softer hair, slightly messier legs tucked under the blanket. The little girl's eyes were focused on a book open on her lap. Rain pattered outside in exactly the same rhythm she remembered. Sabrina's breath hitched softly. Her younger self didn't see her couldn't, perhaps, but the presence was enough to warm something deep within her chest. The whispering voice drifted into the memory, warm as always. This was a place where your heart rested, it said. A place where you felt safe without needing to explain anything. Sabrina stepped closer, her hands clasped gently in front of her. I forgot how peaceful this felt, she whispered. I used to come here every day. You came here when the world felt loud, the voice said. When you were unsure, when you needed to remember you were safe. Sabrina watched her younger self turn a page slowly, eyes flicking across the lines with quiet wonder. A soft ache filled Sabrina's chestnut sadness, but a longing she hadn't realized she carried. I miss this, she whispered. Not just the room, but the feeling. You have not lost it, the voice murmured. Peace does not vanish, it only hides, and moments like these help you find it again. Sabrina's eyes softened. She reached out, though her hand passed through the scene like gentle air. Her younger self continued reading, unaware of her presence wrapped in warmth and calm. Sabrina felt her shoulders loosen. A quiet breath escaped her lips, freer than any she had taken in days. After a long, peaceful silence, the voice spoke again. This memory lives within you still. The comfort, the quiet, the warmth, none of it. You simply needed reminded. Sabrina nodded slowly. I understand. The memory began to blur gently, as though a calm breeze moved through it. The golden glow softened, and the rain outside the window faded into faint mist. Sabrina felt no fear this time. She felt ready. She stepped back through the door as the scene dissolved behind her. The corridor welcomed her again with its warm, glowing air. The doors shimmered softly, proud and patient. Sabrina closed the door gently. The wood glowed under her fingertips, as though grateful. You chose well, the voice said. Your heart needed this. Sabrina looked at her bracelet. It glowed, brighter than ever, soft, steady, alive. Thank you, she whispered. The voice's warmth wrapped around her like a hug. Rest now, more awaits, but not tonight. The corridor brightened until it was all she could see. Warmth filled every part of her, gentle and deep, like sinking into a soft cloud. When she opened her eyes, she was back in her bed. The night was still, the bracelet glowing faintly. Her chest felt lighter, softer, a calm she hadn't felt in years pressed gently around her, like the memory of being held. She closed her eyes again. Tonight, she slept peacefully. Sabrina's quiet memory. The soft glow of the corridor greeted Sabrina again as she returned from the fading mist of sleep. This time, everything felt clearer, warmer, as if the dream realm itself recognized the changes unfolding within her. The bracelet pulsed gently against her wrist, its light no longer hesitant or shy. It shone with a steady brightness, like it had been patiently waiting for this moment. Sabrina took a slow breath. The air tasted sweet with calmness. The whispering voice wasn't speaking yet, but she could feel its presence all around her, like a warm, invisible hand resting on her shoulder. She walked forward, each step falling lightly on the glowing floor beneath her feet. Tonight, she didn't feel lost. Tonight, she felt ready. She passed several doors, each one glowing faintly, with its own soft signature of memory or emotion. Some pulsed with golden warmth, others shimmered with cool silver. She touched none of them. The bracelet tugged at her gently, nudging her forward with quiet certainty. There was a door waiting, and she felt drawn toward it without needing words. She turned a corner in the corridor she hadn't seen before. The walls curved softly, like the inside of a shell. At the end stood a single door symbol, pale, glowing with the faintest green tint. It reminded her of summer grass after rain. It looked familiar in a way that made her chest expand with sudden emotion. The bracelet warmed. Sabrina inhaled, the air trembling softly in her lungs. "This one," she breathed. The whispering voice finally spoke, quiet as a sigh behind her ear. "Yes," it murmured, full of gentle affection. "Memory waits with an open heart." Sabrina reached out and touched the door. Warmth blossomed beneath her fingertips, and the world unfolded. She stood in a quiet field, bathed in dusk light, deep blue. Above, soft twilight, purple blooming across the horizon. The air smelled of warm earth, faint sweetness, and the softness of cooled summer evenings. She heard crickets singing somewhere far away. The breeze brushed past her cheeks gently, like an old friend greeting her after years apart. But then the fireflies appeared, tiny glowing lights floating gently in the air like drifting stars that had wandered too close to the ground. They dotted the field in soft golden flickers, their warm glow pulsing slowly as though they were breathing. And beneath the flickering glow of fireflies sat a little girl, Sabrina. Her younger self sat cross-legged on the grass, barefoot, hair slightly messy from running around earlier. She had her chin lifted toward the sky, her eyes wide with wonder. Her hands lay in her lap, palms open like she was waiting to catch the universe in them. Every few seconds, she giggled softly, as if each firefly carried a tiny piece of magic. She could see, and no one else could. Sabrina felt her breath catch. Her knees weakened with a quiet emotion. She didn't expect something tender, aching, but warm. She remembered this night. She hadn't thought about it in years. But now, standing here, she remembered exactly how it felt. The fireflies, the hush of the night, the feeling that nothing bad could reach her here. She had been small and curious, filled with the kind of quiet wonder that adults often forget to carry. Sabrina walked closer, moving slowly, careful not to disturb the scene. Her younger self looked lifted, mesmerized, watching the fireflies swirl around her like tiny golden spirits. A single firefly drifted toward Sabrina. It landed softly on her shoulder. Warm, alive, gentle. Sabrina breathed out. "I remember." "Yes," the whispering voice whispered, appearing as a soft warmth around her. "You do." Sabrina watched her younger self open her hands. A firefly settled briefly onto her palm before drifting up again, carrying its glow into the air. Little Sabrina's face lit up, eyes sparkling, cheeks glowing. A pure smile she hadn't seen on herself in years. She was so peaceful, Sabrina said quietly, so full of wonder. "She still is," the voice murmured. "She is you." Sabrina felt something inside her shift, like a knot loosening after being pulled tight for too long. "I didn't realize how much I missed this," she whispered, her voice trembling. "The quiet, the feeling of being whole. You carry it still, the voice said, buried under noise, under worry, under time, but it never left you. A soft breeze curled around her wrists, lifting the bracelet slightly. Its glow deepened, silver brightness mixing with the golden firefly light. The warmth spread from her wrist, up her arm, and into her chest, filling her with something familiar. Calm, real, calm, not the forced calm she tried to wear during stressful days, not the breath she took to steady herself before dealing with something difficult. This was deeper, older, something she had known long before responsibility or worry touched her life. Sabrina's eyes softened as she watched her younger self again. The child wasn't thinking about tomorrow or yesterday or anything at all. She was simply present, fully alive in this quiet moment under the night sky. The whispering voice spoke again, soft and loving. This calm was your first magic, your first connection. You felt safe simply by being. You trusted the world to hold you gently. Sabrina closed her eyes briefly. I want to feel that again, and you can. How? The fireflies gathered around her, swirling upward in slow spirals. They brushed her hair, tickled her arms, drifted across her cheeks. Their glow wrapped around her like a warm blanket. By remembering, the voice said, by returning to yourself, by trusting the quiet inside you. Sabrina opened her eyes. The scene shimmered slightly, as if her realization made it glow brighter. Her younger self lifted her head and looked straight ahead, smiling softly at the stars. Sabrina didn't know if the child saw her, or sensed her, or simply felt her presence, but the little girl's face softened into something warm and peaceful. It felt like a blessing. Sabrina knelt down and placed her hand gently upon the grass, beside her younger self, not touching her, but close enough to feel the warmth. You're still with me, she whispered. I didn't lose you. No, the voice murmured. You only forgot how to listen. The memory deepened around Hertha, soft chirping, the cool breeze, the glow of the fireflies. It wrapped around Sabrina's heart, filling spaces she hadn't realized were empty. She took a slow breath, letting the calm wash through her. I still carry that feeling, she whispered softly. That peace, it never disappeared. It lives in you, the voice said gently, waiting, always, for you to return. The fireflies pulsed brighter, one's golden light blooming across the field. The bracelet glowed in response, silver, wrapping into gold, blending the light of past and present. Sabrina felt the connection deep, warm, and real. Her childhood wonder, her present self, and the bracelet's timeless magic aligned for a moment so pure, her heart fluttered with quiet. The night grew softer. The fireflies slowed their dance. The stars shimmered faintly. The memory began to dissolve, fading into warm mist. But Sabrina didn't feel sadness. She felt held. She felt whole as the fireflies faded. The younger Sabrina blurred into light, returning gently to the glow of the dream realm. The whispering grass, the night sky, the drifting stars all melted away into soft silver mist. Sabrina stood again in the glowing corridor, her heart warm. The door behind her clicked softly, sealing the memory but not closing it off. The bracelet pulsed, calm and bright. She placed a hand over it and whispered, "Thank you." The whispering voice hummed in response, warm and full of affection. "You are remembering who you are, Sabrina." Sabrina breathed out slowly, peacefully. For the first time in a long time, she felt deeply, genuinely calm, and she knew now she had carried that calm within her all along. Returning to rest. The return to waking felt nothing like what Sabrina expected, though she had no clear idea of what such a return should feel like. It was slow, soft, and strangely weightless, as if her body were not a body at all, but a drifting leaf floating back toward the ground after being carried gently through a warm night wind. She didn't open her eyes right away. Instead, she let herself hover in that tender space between dreams and the physical world, where everything existed as a quiet haze, familiar yet distant, peaceful yet alive. Her breathing was the first thing she noticed. It was calm, so calm, she barely felt it moving. Each inhale slipped into her lungs like a smooth ribbon, and each exhale glided out with no tension, no heaviness, no effort. That alone told her something had changed. Inside, somewhere deep, a weight she hadn't realized she'd been carrying for years had finally loosened its grip. The bracelet rested lightly against her wrist, cool now, its glow completely faded. She became aware of its presence, the way one becomes aware of a gentle hand resting on top of theirs, not insistent, not demanding, but comforting. A quiet reassurance that lingered even after the dream world had dissolved. She kept her arm still, as if any sudden movement might disturb the soft serenity that wrapped around her like a warm blanket. She didn't want to move, not yet. The moonlight in her room fell across her closed eyelids in pale ribbons, turning the darkness behind her eyes from black to a soft, translucent silver. The air felt cleaner than usual, as though the dream garden had followed her home and settled in the corners of her room, humming with the same subtle glow she had walked through in her sleep. For a moment, just a moment, Sabrina wondered if she had imagined it all. The floating petals, the shimmering path, the calm voice that seemed to cradle her fears without judgment. The serene past wearer who spoke with such gentleness, who stood as if the world itself moved more softly around her. But as soon as that doubt flickered across Sabrina's mind, the warmth from the bracelet pulsed faintly beneath her skin. Not a glow, not any visible magic, just a warmth, a quiet reminder it had been real. Or, if not real in the physical sense, then real where it mattered. Sabrina finally allowed her body to sink deeper into the mattress. Her muscles relaxed one by one, no longer holding invisible tension. Her shoulders felt lighter, her spine softer, her fingers uncurling with a quiet exhale she didn't know she'd been holding. The blanket around her seemed warmer than usual, wrapping her in the familiar weight of home. But the peace inside her that felt new, her mind flickered gently back to the memory she had stepped into, the one waiting behind her chosen door. The field of summer grass, the glow of fireflies swaying in the air like tiny floating lanterns. Her younger self sitting there with bare feet and wide, curious eyes. The child she had been had felt whole, unbroken, untouched by the quiet worries that adulthood so often gathers. That child had carried a sense of calm she thought she had lost forever. But she hadn't lost it. It had simply grown quiet beneath the noise of life. And now, that calm rose gently inside her again, like a leaf floating upward in warm air, like a smile forming without intention. The bracelet did not create the peace, it reminded her of the peace she already owned. The past wearer had said as much, and Sabrina understood it now with a clarity she hadn't had earlier. She let her mind drift around that understanding, not gripping it tightly, not analyzing it, simply letting it settle. The room around her felt different, not because anything had changed physically, but because she was seeing it, or rather, sensing it with new softness. The faint hum of the city outside, usually a subtle irritation, now blended into a soothing rhythm. The shadows cast by her curtains swayed gently with the nighttime breeze, stretching across her floor like long strokes of calm ink. Even the silence felt warm, as though the walls themselves held a soft glow. Everything felt connected, not in any magical or overwhelming way, but in the simple sense that she belonged here, in this moment, in her own quietness. Sabrina slowly turned her head on the pillow, feeling the coolness of the cotton against her cheek. Her hair spread around her like a dark halo, still carrying a faint scent of the lavender oil she sometimes used before sleep. She focused on that scent, now the soft, floral note that blended with the slightest hint of sweetness. It grounded her, brought her deeper into this gentle waking. Her hand moved, almost on instinct, until her fingers found the bracelet again. She didn't lift it. She didn't trace its patterns or turn it around. She simply rested her fingertips on it, as if acknowledging the journey it had guided her through. The metal felt cool, but not cold. Its stillness was comforting in a way she didn't expect. In the dream, the bracelet had glowed with quiet warmth. Now, it rested peacefully, as though it too needed rest after opening its memories, after guiding her through its gentle connections. A soft, grateful exhale slipped out of her. The serene woman, the past wearer, lingered in her memory, not as a vivid scene, but as a presence, like a warm hand pressed lightly between her shoulder blades, a reminder to breathe gently. The woman's eyes had carried something Sabrina still felt now, a tenderness without pressure, a wisdom without weight. She wondered how many others before her had worn the bracelet, how many had walked the dream realm, how many had found the same quiet comfort waiting for them beyond the floating petals. There was something soothing about that thought, the idea that she was not alone, not in her worry, not in her journey, not in her quiet seeking for peace. There was a long history of gentle hearts connected through time, each one stepping into the dream garden when they needed it most. The whispering voice had guided them all, guided her. She felt her chest warm at the memory of that voice, soft, kind, boundless in patience. It had not pushed her. It had not tried to fix anything. It had simply walked beside her, encouraging her toward the door that held her memory. It had known she was safe before she remembered. That realization settled like a warm ember in the center of her chest. Her eyelids stayed closed, not from tiredness, but from contentment. Sleep was returning, not the tangled, restless sleep she sometimes fell into, but the deep kind that wrapped around her with comfort. Her body knew, instinctively, that she would drift off again soon, but she didn't feel hurried. She didn't feel forced. She felt held, gently and quietly, by the night itself. She adjusted her blanket and felt herself sink deeper, as if her mattress were soft clouds gathering beneath her. Her toes relaxed, Her hands loosened near her heart. Her breathing fell into a slow, drifting rhythm. The bracelet rested peacefully, the final, quiet touch of the dream realm that had reminded her what rest could feel like. She let one more breath fill her lungs, warm and full, then release it in a long, slow exhale that carried her further into the night's embrace. Her mind quieted completely now. No thoughts pushed, no worries stirred, only stillness remained. The world inside and outside seemed to settle in harmony. She didn't need any more visions. She didn't need any more guiding voices. Everything necessary had already blossomed in her heart, glowing like faint fireflies in the dark. Sabrina drifted, light as a sigh. The night folded around her. The bracelet lay still, and she surrendered to a deeper, quieter sleep, one soft enough to hold the peace she had rediscovered, one gentle enough to carry her until morning. Thank you, gentle dreamer, for drifting with me tonight. May your sleep be soft, your dreams warm, and your heart light. If this story brought you peace, feel free to return whenever you need calm. And until our next quiet night together, rest well, breathe deeply, and sleep in kindness.